Hello, and welcome to Cisco Takes Customer Listening Seriously, a one-to-one media Take 30 webcast sponsored by Verint. I'm Myla D'Antonio, Editor-in-Chief of One-to-One Media, and your moderator for today's event. Today's speaker is Karen Mangia, Director of the Listening Services Center of Excellence at Cisco and a 2013 One-to-One Media Customer Champion. Karen leads Cisco's Global Voice of Customer Partner and Field Portfolio for Cisco. She and her team drive customer, partner, and Cisco success through connected listening and insights that shape the company's direction, strategy, investments, and customer interactions. Karen also leads Cisco's Global Supplier Diversity Business Development Program that identifies potential suppliers and facilitates relationships between them and Cisco representatives who can use their partners and services. Welcome, Karen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here today.
Great. Before I review the agenda, let's go over some logistics concerning the ON24 interface. If you have a question for Karen, please click the red Q&A icon. If you encounter any technical issues with the ON24 system, please click the gold question mark for a list of FAQs. If you encounter, please turn off your pop-up blockers because there will also be a survey during the Q&A, and we'd encourage you to participate in that. All attendees will receive an email with a link to the archived version of this webcast. And finally, if you're tweeting, our Twitter hashtag for this webinar is One-to-One Media. Let's move on to the agenda. Today, Karen will discuss the methods and technologies involved to help Cisco understand all customer pain points, the process for sharing customer insights with the entire organization, and the ROI that Cisco has realized as a result of its multifaceted customer listening program. This webcast will also be followed by a Q&A and the post-event survey. So let's get started. Today, customer listening is essential for a company to grow its relationships with customers and to improve upon its services and offerings. At Cisco, customer listening has become a strategic play. As such, it has evolved into an enterprise voice of the customer program that's become ingrained into the company's culture. In elevating its customer listening program, Cisco has deployed a variety of technologies and strategies to enable prompt and accurate customer feedback analysis and response, including customer and employee listening posts, text and sentiment analytics, social media monitoring, and targeted on-demand surveys. Karen, Cisco has a pretty comprehensive enterprise voice of the customer program and takes customer listening really seriously. So many companies struggle, though, with implementing a formalized program. Can you describe to our audience how this has become so ingrained in the Cisco culture?
Well, when I think about one of the elements of a very successful customer listening strategy, one part of that is about executive engagement and the culture that the executives and by extension everyone in the organization drives. And at Cisco, if you run into a Cisco employee at any point, I encourage you to test them on this. But for each one of us, we carry around a badge every day with our company values. And one of those values says customer success. And when we think about what that means, if you carry a quota, sometimes customer success to you can mean achieving that quota. But how do we really measure that value for the entire organization, even for our non-quota carrying people? And for us, our voice of the customer program is our number one way that we measure as a company how we're doing on delivering against that core value. So for us, we carry it around every day as a value, and our very most senior leaders in the business all the way through the organization talk about it and use this measurement as a way to connect that core value with how well we're doing.
Great. And it also starts with your team. I know the Listening Services Center of Excellence acts as the organization's hub for customer feedback. Can you describe to the audience how your group operates? What is it charged with doing? What are the team's responsibilities, and how it works to share information with the rest of the organization on a regular basis?
Well, you can imagine in a company the size of Cisco, when you have thousands of employees and a global footprint, there are a number of organizations through the years that have had responsibilities tied to listening to our customers, partners, and employees. And also what I would call a series of random acts of listening, where really well-intentioned people generate their own one-off way to listen to a group of customers, partners, or employees on a one-time basis. So as we stepped back several years ago as a company and evaluated how we could get more operationally effective and efficient, the listening area was one target in looking at how we could be more connected and more efficient in our activities. So we brought together 4 teams from 4 different parts of the business. The team that did the partner-related listening that was sitting in our channels organization, the team that did our voice of customer program, which was sitting in the corporate quality organization, our team that was doing customer service-related listening that was sitting in the customer service organization, and then one of our services listening teams. And when we brought those 4 teams together, what we found is we had fundamentally in one place for the first time customer, partner, and some employee listening, as well as product and service listening in one place. And so when we thought about how we could make the most of those assets, we thought about it in 2 big categories. So one are run the business programs, those big annual relationship studies that we're all used to, whether that's an employee pulse survey or a customer satisfaction survey. And then we thought about those customized, specialized requests where people in the business would come to us and ask us to go deeper on a topic or with a particular population. So our team owns a portfolio of activities now that includes everything from large annual relationship surveys for customers, partners, and employees, an on-demand listening portfolio where you can engage us and leverage what we do as a customized service, and then a team that's focused on seller experience that does what we would think of as that experience journey mapping, role and persona work, and taking the pain points and utilizing them in a different way to benefit our sellers. So it's really a full portfolio of global responsibilities, and we found that having those 4 teams in one place and truly integrating them has made a big impact on the business.
It also sounds like you truly gave them ownership of customer listening.
That's correct, and there is definite clarity that we have one customer satisfaction program at Cisco that overall is listening on a relationship perspective globally. And so having representatives from each part of the business to let us know what areas we need to listen for and what kind of information they need in order to make it actionable is a key part of our success in the program.
Great. So designing a formal customer listening program has a lot to do, like we heard, with establishing processes and integrating teams and developing new strategies. But technology also plays a critical role. Can you please discuss what technologies that you've deployed to help facilitate your listening strategy?
We have 2 primary partners in the listening space. So the first one is Verint, and we leverage a platform that they acquired from a company called VoVC that helps us with a number of those on-demand and specialized listening requests. So utilizing the Verint platform, we can go in and enable our employees to create some surveys and do some of their own analysis and present their own results. But we also layer our customized service offerings on top of that technology platform because it gives us flexibility to do things like watch over the population of people we're surveying to make sure we're not surveying the same people too many times, and also do some more sophisticated analytics and presentation of the data to make sure it's as actionable as possible. Our other partner in the space whose technology we use very consistently is Walker Information. And Walker is our partner with our Run the Business programs, especially our large voice of customer or customer satisfaction program. And we leverage technology with them that, in fact, we're in the process of upgrading right now that gives us the capability to aggregate multiple listening posts in one place and really be in a position to give the business a better 360-degree view of feedback coming from our customers and partners. And we continue to find that in the technology space, whether it's our senior-most executives going into an executive briefing with a client, or whether it's that frontline individual contributor salesperson getting ready to go out and have a conversation with a customer, that we see an increased demand to take the listening data that we have and make it available in the mobile environment. So we're putting a lot of focus there on making sure we've got the right information available to the right people at Cisco at the right point in the selling process and giving them the opportunity to really access that from any device.
It sounds like you really have some solid technology partnerships there. So thanks, Karen. That's great. Going back to the people side of it, I know you mentioned earlier that you have subject matter experts on your team. What are they in charge of, and how does this system help to facilitate insights across the organization?
We really think about the expertise that we have on our team in several categories. And the first one is people who are subject matter experts at listening. So these are the folks who are the best at how we gather information. And that can take several forms. We've got people who are expert at listening through the way we ask survey questions and the way that we write surveys. We have people who are experts at doing live listening. So facilitating a conversation about a specific topic with an audience. And that could be testing an idea. That could be testing a new technology or system, or it could be asking about improvements to a process. We also have people who are working in the user research space to have detailed conversations with groups of Cisco sellers and our partner sellers, for example, on a fixed set of topics to make sure we engage them as we're designing new tools and processes and programs that are designed to benefit them. So we definitely have a series of listening-related subject matter experts in our team. Then we have a group of analysts, and I think about those analysts as the people who are expert at how we convert that listening data into actionable intelligence. And I think our business, like many of yours, it's all about not showing up with volumes of data, but what does it really mean? How can we deliver an insight to a leader in our business and tell them something about their own business that they don't know? So we have people who are doing very sophisticated data analytics, whether that's working with our Clarabridge platform to go through verbatim comments and extract sentiment from that, or whether that's doing regression analysis on questions to figure out key drivers about what drives satisfaction or loyalty. So the second group is our analyst community. Our third population are our teams and experts who work on relationship management and engaging our key stakeholders. Because as we gather the information, we have people across the business who are ambassadors and representing their part of the business's needs in the process. So we need to work with them in a coordinated way. And then we utilize a very similar system for disseminating results in a planned cadence with a planned set of stakeholders so that the findings can cascade through the organization. So we really think about our subject matter experts in terms of listening and user research, analysis, and then communication and stakeholder engagement.
It sounds like you really have an in-depth organizational structure in place. So can you, Karen, share some of the key insights gleaned from the system and from the data and the important actions taken within Cisco that have made a difference to your business and with how you serve customers?
One of our success stories is about the theme of ease of doing business. And if we think back in time a couple of years, we started noticing that across multiple ways that we listen to our customers, partners, and employees, that people were writing in comments that indicated to us it was becoming more difficult to do business with Cisco. And as we looked at that information and took that back to the business, we thought it would be important to start purposely asking some questions in some of our bigger relationship surveys to understand and baseline where we are in terms of perception and also what it would take to fundamentally change that perception. Well, as we gathered that data and we did some benchmarking across the industry, we found out we really were not doing well in that area. And so our CEO took the action to kick off a formal ease of doing business initiative. He named 2 senior co-leads in the business, and that turned into a portfolio of work where we took the drivers for customer perceptions about ease of doing business, as well as a slightly different list of drivers of ease of doing business for partners, and assigned executives to be accountable for each one of those areas. Now, behind that came portfolios of work, and our team was very engaged in making sure that the areas where we were taking action were tied to the areas of greatest customer and partner need. Now, as we sort of bring that story forward into the present time, and we're a couple of years into this process, we have made significant improvements in ease of doing business for our customers, partners, and employees, and our scores and the comments that we receive are reflecting that we're making progress there. And I think one of the reasons that's so important is the original idea to listen in a more detailed way on that theme came out of listening posts we already had. We got more efficient and effective at asking questions and utilizing those listening posts, and then we translated that into action and then went back and measured to make sure that the steps that we were taking truly made an impact.
Great. Now, I know, Karen, you also combine sets of feedback from both customer side and employee feedback. Can you describe the methods in which you solicit employee feedback and how you combine those insights with the CRM data from customers?
Well, in addition to bringing these four teams together, we have a really strong partnership with our HR organization. And our HR organization has historically run our employee pulse survey, and I'm sure many of you have a similar listening vehicle where you ask them questions perhaps once or twice a year of your employees on key topics about their satisfaction and loyalty to you in the workplace, as well as testing in on some questions about their knowledge of the strategy and execution plan and how they fit into the business overall. And we found, as we brought the teams together to create the Listening Services Center of Excellence and were able to, really solidify our technology platform and expand our portfolio of offerings, the HR team actually migrated our employee pulse survey onto our technology platform. So it does sit on the Verint platform today, and we also do the sentiment analysis from the comments that employees write in that employee pulse survey. I think one of the things that's interesting is when you start to match up our employees' perceptions, especially those who directly interface with our customers and partners, with the observations about how those relationships are from a customer and partner perspective, it creates a really powerful way to triangulate that data. The employee's perception of Cisco, the customer's perception of Cisco, the partner's perception of Cisco, and how that all interrelates. So again, we look for key themes across that particular domain for the voice of the employee.
It sounds like there's so many facets that go into this customer listening program. What do you attribute to the success of the program?
I think there's two really key factors. So one is consistency from the top down. So there's a high degree of predictability around when people are going to hear from us, what kind of results and information are available, and that everyone from our CEO all the way down to first-line managers holds employees accountable for the results and for driving activity tied to the results. So we've got executive sponsorship tied to consistency and accountability, which is really critical. The other piece, too, for our customer listening program, I have to say, I've referenced the team that we have in terms of, the subject matter experts in the work that we're doing. But we have a fantastic team of people who sit all over the world who bring diverse skill sets to the team that are out working with stakeholders and driving that cadence every day and leading change in the business. That's also been really critical to our success.
So what advice do you have for other business leaders who struggle with implementing a formal voice of the customer program? Can you offer anything to help guide them?
My advice would be to start small. When you're a practitioner in this space and you have in your mind what the ideal state could look like, it's very tempting to try to, make all the changes at once because you're seeing a gap between where you are and where you would like to be. And so when you think about taking that big plan, a big transformation or a big journey, you have to break it down into smaller pieces that work with your culture. So for example, at Cisco, if we went to our CEO and we said, we want to stop the customer satisfaction program and start something completely different in its place, we would be A, taking on something way too big, and B, really working against the grain of our culture when that's one of our core values. So I would say start small and choose something that's in alignment with your culture and with at least one senior leader in the business who would be willing to sponsor you. And from small wins, you can make much faster progress in the end.
Great advice, Karen. How do you plan to grow Cisco's enterprise listening strategy?
I mentioned that we're doing a technology upgrade to give us more capabilities that help us automate some of the work that we do manually today. And what that's going to enable us to do is to do a better job of connecting the many ways that our customers, partners, and employees choose to give us feedback so that we can really give the business a better 360-degree view of the experience and perceptions of a particular individual or company or region of the world. So for us, it's about continuing to connect multiple data points and looking at that big picture. The other piece of it is, as we grow our technology, we're continuing to think about how to leverage things like mobile apps to really equip our executives with listening feedback and insights really on demand at a level that's appropriate for them to consume. Those are sort of our two big growth areas over the next year.
Great. I'd love to chat with you later in the year about these changes. It sounds exciting. So Karen, to wrap up the Q&A portion between us, can you share with our audience the trends that you predict we'll encounter this year in customer feedback, voice of the customer space?
I really see two big trends in my mind. So one is people want to give us feedback on their terms. So I think doing the long relationship surveys will continue to diminish in terms of popularity. So many of our customers, partners, and employees want to give us feedback when they want to about the topics they want to speak with us about. So I think it's important for all of us as professionals in this space to continue to think about how we reduce our dependency on survey questions and supplement with some other pieces of data that customers, partners, and employees will just give us voluntarily and on their own terms. And my other prediction is I really think that this is the year of the customer experience professional. We see this, and I've seen this, I guess, over the past several years, is that this is a growing profession. That there are so many of us now who train in this space, have job experience in this place, and companies are recognizing there's tremendous value and connection between how you listen to your customers and how you follow through on what you hear, and that it takes professional people with skills in that space to do it well. So I'm seeing more industry groups popping up, to support the professional needs of this space. And so I truly think that this is the year of the professional explosion, I would say, for this kind of a career.
Great. Look forward to seeing some of those come true. So thank you so much, Karen. It's now time to kick off our Q&A session, so please get your questions ready for Karen. She's willing to ask any question that you might have. First, a few reminders. If you'd like a PDF copy of the deck, click the Download Presentation button at the bottom center of your screen. If you missed any part of this presentation or would like to see it again, everyone will receive an email with a link to the archived version. I'd like to remind everyone about the survey posted during the Q&A period coming up next. Please take a moment to participate. You'll need to turn off your pop-up blockers to enable that survey. Now let's begin the Q&A portion. Again, to ask Karen a question, click the Submit Question button in the lower left-hand section of your presentation window. And if we don't get your question, we'll email you a response after this webinar. So let's see our first question. Great. Okay. It's from, Jeremy Cox. Did you look at ROI of the program, or is its value obvious?
So when you think about the ROI, I think one of the questions we always ask is how do you measure the value, right? There are questions that you can look at how the scores improve, but at the end of the day, we always like to tie ourselves back to tangible revenue. So two ways that we do that. So one is part of our programs, both on the customer service side as well as on the Voice of Customer program, our annual relationship survey, we have those tied to a low score follow-up program. So when there's a low score that a customer or a partner would provide to us, it triggers an action to go and follow up with that customer, dive into the topic, address the issue. And what we often find through the feedback that our sales teams give us in doing follow-ups with the customers is that low score follow-up program leads to generating net new opportunities with those clients. So that's one way that we measure ROI. The second one is we measure time and dollars saved by making changes to our processes. So I mentioned ease of doing business, right? That was one area of focus for us. And as we looked at ways to help customers avoid even having to open a support case or identifying new ways that they could get their questions answered or find the answer to their question without opening a case, we calculate the amount of money in partnership with our services organization and customer service organization. We actually calculate the ROI, time saved, money saved as part of those initiatives. So that goes into our ROI calculation of what we're delivering back to the business, both in terms of net new revenue and cost saved.
That's great, Karen. Thank you so much. Kevin Bond would like to know approximately how large is the listening services team?
So we have about 40 people, and it varies from day to day because we do have some contractors. So as our demand sort of expands and contracts, we've got at any given time about 40 to 45 people who are tied to our listening activities.
Okay. Sammy Weddle would like to know, if you use multiple types of feedback venues, for instance, customer communities and social media.
Yeah, so in Cisco's marketing organization, we have a team that systematically goes through, I'm going to call it the general kind of Twitter feed, Facebook posts, and some of the online communities, and does some sentiment analysis and text analytics on that to assess key themes and how some of those key themes are trending. We have a partnership with that team so that we can leverage the data that they're putting together. And we actually have a text analytics working group where we engage people from our services organization and marketing organization and then our own team to sort of work collectively on that so that we can take the best of what's already been analyzed and utilize those results and insights in multiple places.
Great. Drew Tilkins would like to know if you also use Verint as a speech analytics tool as well to help mine your call center data.
So we do use Verint in some places, and we have a variety of other solutions as well.
Okay, great. Let's see. Jeremy Cox again would like to know, do you need analysts to analyze results and create insights, or can this be automated using the appropriate tools? And if analysts are used, does this create undue delay in resolving immediate individual customer issues? I believe you did say you use a team of analysts.
We do have a team of analysts. I think there's an important nugget in there, though, is what do you do manually versus what do you automate? And we have a very talented analysis team. And one of the things that happens, if any of you on the call who are data analysts yourselves, you know that part of it is really sorting through some raw data sometimes and looking for trends, right? And building your own path to insights and testing and applying that methodology or that theory to a variety of data sets. And what we found is some of our best insights and new ways to get to those insights have come through manually doing the work. But once we get it to a place that it is valuable and we want it to be repeatable and scalable, it definitely pays to automate it. And we think of it in terms of, analysts being very high value employees, and we want them working on value tasks. And once you've figured out your path to creating analysis manually, the best thing that we can do then to free up that value resource is to take those activities and automate them. So I think there's a little bit of a combination of both, but we find sometimes we get to great insights through doing manual work, but then to get it to scale, you're right, you absolutely need tools. Otherwise, your analysts all day long will just be like a help desk of going through data.
Great. Kalina would like to know, at what point do you think the organization is on board, the people on the ground, not the executives? What were the signs that told you that this is now working? And she'd like to know what she should look for in order to estimate whether things are on the right track at her organization.
When I think about putting the 4 teams together and, we have all these wonderful insights, to me, in these activities, whether it's putting an organization together or the way that the listening insights are used in your organization, to me, the turning point is always when more people are coming to you than you are going to them. So kind of the push versus pull. Because I think about, when we first put this team together and had a vision of what this could really be for the business, we spent a lot of time going to people and saying, would you please take this meeting, or asking them, would you please consider using our service instead of spending some external dollars? And, we spent months doing that, kind of on the road show, building the brand, building up some success cases. And there was a definite turning point when our calendars and our inboxes were full of people coming to us saying, hey, I heard that such and such an executive in the business got their initiative funded because they did a listening engagement with you with customers. I want to do one of those too. How do I do that? Right. So, I think about it in terms of looking for evidence. And to me, that was a really big sign that we were getting traction and that we were having good word of mouth of other people describing, I didn't necessarily have to do this or have to utilize this team, but I chose it and I went back because there's value. Second piece is we measure repeat engagements. So we have people who started out and did one small engagement with us or came to us for one small request who have now turned into sort of annuity internal engagements for us, where every quarter we have a standing engagement with them because they found it to be that much value. So I would say the push versus pull and kind of repeat engagement.
Great. Karen, we have time for one last question. How do you structure your listening on-demand services?
We spent a lot of time learning about how to do that well, and I will tell you it's been an evolution, and it's probably an insightful enough topic that we could have a whole conversation just about that. But what we learned is it works best if you can do two things really well. Number one, have in mind in advance different categories of offerings. So if you think about going to a restaurant and the menu is divided down into sections, right? You know the difference when you read the menu between getting an appetizer and an entree in terms of how much it's going to cost, probably how long it's going to take to prepare it, and the relative size and scope of what's going to show up on that plate when it arrives. We had to do the same thing with all the capabilities that we had. We had to sort of build a menu of what it was that we could offer so that the people engaging with us could understand what was involved from their perspective and ours in terms of duration, complexity, and cost. And we needed that ourselves so that we could better forecast our demand and make sure that we were ready with enough resources that were available to take on those engagements and do them well. So we structured it from kind of a service catalog or menu type approach. But then the next piece of it is the team developed a fantastic statement of work concept that really outlines the shared expectations that get us to the end goal of the output from your listing engagement. Right, because the people that we're working with have responsibilities in the process. It's not totally turnkey where they can show up and say, I want these 6 things, and then we just go in the kitchen and make it and bring them back, right? They have some responsibilities in the process. So those 2 things were really game changers for us, putting a catalog of service offerings in place that helped us predict demand much better, and then having a standardized statement of work that we could use to set expectations and message those and document them to our stakeholders.
Well, thanks, Karen, for providing this insight. This wraps up our Q&A portion, and I apologize if we couldn't get to your question, but I promise we will email you a response within the next couple of days. So thanks to Karen Mangia and to everyone for joining us today. We're out of time, so again, any unanswered questions will be addressed via email. This concludes Cisco Takes Customer Listening Seriously, a one-to-one media Take 30 webcast sponsored by Verint. On behalf of the entire team, thanks for attending and have a great day.